Hi everyone, Playmaker again. So I was just watching a couple new episodes of the latest series that I got, Kamen Rider Wizard. I finally got to this and it's awesome. But about 4 episodes in, I got shocked into realizing something. Something that I just realized about the Kamen Rider franchise as a whole. And this might shock some of you. Some of you may not know, but again, if you've watched my other video, I've told you about how the Kamen Riders are like a little more darker and hardcore than the Super Sentai series or Power Ranger series that you guys may know. But now that I've watched this, I've come to realize something that literally, now that I realized it, every single Kamen Rider has. Every Kamen Rider from the mainstream era to even its original era had one thing in common. You ready? They all had the powers of their enemies. Now, it actually started off in 1972 when Kamen Rider Ichigo came out. Now, in that time, the original story was about Takashi Hongo. He was a normal high school student, and he was a motorcycle rider. But his story started when he was kidnapped by an evil organization called Shocker, the remnants of the Japanese Nazi party that kidnapped normal people and turned them into cyborg monsters that they used to control, take over the world and, attacks and whatnot. And when they turned Hongo into one of these cyborgs, that's how he got his original, the iconic rider suit. He's using the powers that the evil organization gave him to be the hero, and he uses it to fight against them. And from the 70s to the late 80s, that's what Kamen Rider was about. The main characters being turned into cyborgs and using it to fight against their evil organization. But then it gets wilder when you think about the ones from the Heisei era that I've mentioned. Now, I've mentioned the origins of all these characters, but I didn't mention how they got their powers. And when I describe it, it'll be crazy, because I'm going to start off again from the top. Kuga. Now, I've mentioned that his powers come from an ancient civilization that he awakened from, from ancient ruins and everything. But according to the show, his power comes from his belt. And according to the show, the monsters he fight, the Grongi, they get their transformation powers to transform, to metamorph from human to their monster form with their belts on their waists called the Amadon. And his belt functions by the same power. So apparently, though, the ancient warrior that originally wore this armor used that same biomechanical technology or whatever they used, the metamorpho whatever thing, to transform just like the monsters did. And they've even mentioned and confirmed that technically speaking, he is one of them. But just, a good one. And he uses, their transformation powers for it. Kamen Rider Agito, I've mentioned that although it's this world's god that's, bringing down the monsters and everything, but Agito's power comes from the same heavenly realm. So in a way, their powers are the same. Ryuki. In this, I mentioned that there was a brother who started off the whole Kamen Rider war by accessing a mirror world and then created all the rider suits. Even though the main villain was a rider himself, he used the power of the mirror world to give it to all these other riders, where 5 of the 13 Kamen Riders were absolutely evil, and the other main protagonists, they were either fighting amongst each other or against the main riders. And again, Ryuki came from that same power. So his power came from the enemy too. Faiz. I literally mentioned that Faiz's armor, although the whole plot of the movie was that the show that humans, when they die, they can have the potential to become the monsters, but the organization that's trying to speed that process along made this armor for their generals to be the strongest of the strong, and only the monsters can access this armor. or humans, again, not just them, so the humans who have the monster DNA, which is where some of the characters get that. They mix their DNA up with the monsters, so they're more human, but still a little bit of monster, so they can access this armor. This armor was made for the enemy. Blade. I mentioned how, in this movie, there's the 52, 53 monsters, the undead, that are a part of the show, and they're trying to seal them up. When they get sealed up, they get locked in those cards back there. And the riders, these belts, use those cards to transform into their armor. They're using the powers of these sealed monsters that they're fighting to transform. Kamen Rider Kabuto. Now, I've said that in Kabuto, the monsters are alien worms that come from a meteorite that fell from outer space. But kind of like the Krang and the Utrom from the 2012 series, there's actually a good faction of these worms called the Native. They're the good species of the worms, and they actually try to help humanity and fight them off. The natives created these little beetles that help Kamen Rider Kabuto and the other Kamen Riders in the show transform. So even though it's the good member of the species, technically speaking, the same enemy species created that armor. Deno. I've mentioned it before. His power comes from the Imagine. Like these four colorful beings, the blue one, the yellow one, the purple one over there, they are Imagine, the same spiritual bad beings that are used stuff that they fight against. It's just that four of them are good, or five of them are good. But it's still the same monster species. And I won't mention Kiva for the sake of my friends again, but let's just say a similar plot rolls around. And then Decade, again, okay, so it's a little complicated to explain, but let's just say, yeah, an evil organization created Decade and he's trying to go against them. Like, it's really, really complicated. I'm going to go over it again in another video, but yeah, Decade. But in O's, you know what? I'm actually going to save these for when I get done with Wizard. Then I'll mention, like, the whole plots of the secondary Rider series. But, yeah, there you have it. All of the writers from there on, even the original 1972 series, came from the bad guys themselves. Wrap your heads around that one. All right, yeah. Playmaker, signing off.